Hello my darlings! So obviously from the title of this video you can see that I have had my twins and I'm super excited to show you guys the little babies. Originally I had planned on doing a live birth kind of video, pretty much just my recording as I was going along in the hospital, but things just kind of happened so fast that I did not have a chance to really film just kind of everything, and I'll kind of explain obviously the whole labor and delivery, but everything was just going so fast and I didn't really I got one small moment to film. That was about it. I didn't really have a lot of time to kind of do updates as I was going along because things were going so fast, and I didn't want to film while the nurses were in the room with me because I felt like they need my full attention, asking me questions and everything. I'll kind of explain why I didn't really have as many moments to myself as I thought I would. This kind of starts over Easter. Easter Sunday I was on my feet all day trying to get the house ready and clean for everybody to come over. So I wasn't really feeling the babies move a lot, and so usually when I'm on my feet a lot, it rocks them kind of to sleep. So babies are very active when you're walking a lot, and at night when you're sitting still is when they're awake. All day Sunday, I hadn't really felt either one of them really move a lot, but I figured, hey, I'm on my feet. I was just on my feet all day. I didn't really think anything of it. The following Monday, after Easter, which was the 17th, I was noticing that I hadn't felt them move for a while. It was closer towards the end of the day. That day I spent all day on the couch because I was just so exhausted from cleaning and being on my feet the day before that Monday I kind of just took it easy. I figured oh, they're probably gonna move a lot more because I'm not standing up. And so I noticed Knox wasn't moving as much, but he was I could still kind of feel him on the right side of my stomach moving. And it was Kennedy who I was kind of more so worried about her, but I was doing the whole drinking cold water and trying to push on my stomach, because most of the time I could push on my stomach to get them to move and they would move fine. In my head I'm okay, I'll see if tomorrow they're still not moving, and then if not, then I'll do something. And the next day, it was towards the end of the day in the afternoon, I still hadn't felt Kennedy really move much. Knox was kind of not as active, but it was more so Kennedy. I would feel her move very slowly, and it was very slow movements occasionally. She wasn't actively kicking or really wanting to do much, and so that was kind of alarming me. Well, after 4 o'clock, and I was gonna call my OB, and I realized that their office closed at 4, and so I was oh, it'll probably send me to an exchange or give me the number for whatever doctor is on call. And my OB was on call that night. She was gonna be in the hospital on call. I figured she was on her way to the hospital, so she probably hasn't gotten settled yet. I called Cody and I said, hey, are you gonna be off soon? Because I'm kind of worried about the babies, and I haven't really said anything to you, but it's now day 2 and I haven't really felt them move as much. I'm just gonna go to triage on my own and see what's going on. I told him, I was I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather them send me home saying nothing's wrong than me wait and something bad happened. I just waited for him to get here. I get to the hospital and I let them know that I haven't really felt them move that much, and so they get me in a bed and they hook the monitors up. So in my stomach, Kennedy was on this side, her head was down, and Knox was on this side of my stomach and his head was down, but he was up a lot further than she was. She was really far down and he's been more up in my stomach. When they put the monitors on me, I always knew one was on my left, one was going to be on my left side and low, and one was going to be on my right side higher. And so the nurse that was hooking up the monitors to monitor their heart rate, and she had switched it, and that's how she was monitoring their heart rates. She found Knox pretty fast. That she found his heart rate, so he was okay, but Kennedy she was taking a long time, a lot longer than I was comfortable with. Like, it was starting to make me panic how long it was taking her to find Kennedy, but eventually she found her heart rate and found 2 separate heart rates, but still the monitors were in weird positions, and I was like, this is weird. Nobody's ever monitored their heart rates with the monitors in such weird spots. So my OB comes in, looked at the monitors. She's like, that's weird. Why are the monitors on you like that? And so she took them off and started all over again and found Knox and found him in the right spot. So she put the monitor over here on my stomach where he has always been, and she found him. And then she was going to find Kennedy. She was having a hard time finding her. She went to go get the ultrasound machine. And so then I'm trying not to panic. She brought the ultrasound machine over, and Kennedy was really, really low. My OB was able to find her eventually. And so she was able to find a heart rate, and she could see her breathing. But she was trying to get her to move, and she was like not wanting to move at all. She was just laying there. She was trying to like poke at her to like get her to move, and she was really smashed up against the side of my body and smashed really low. Like, Knox was just completely like taking over her space. What my OB decided to do, she asked me if I would be okay if I was induced. Even though they're still kind of little, she's like, I would feel more comfortable inducing you and getting them out now than sending you home and waiting and like losing and have you lose a baby, because it goes into distress. So I was like, I'm completely okay with that. I would rather that happen too. I was really uncomfortable with everything that was going on, because they were having a hard time finding her, first of all, and then they were having a hard time getting her to move. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. A little after 6 o'clock, the OB decided that I was gonna be induced, and so she was like, call your husband and get him here, bring the bags, and figure everything out. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I called Cody, and I was like, are you ready to go on your vacation? Cody showed up, my parents showed up while I was in triage. And so we were just waiting to get moved into a room. And while I was waiting in triage, I had gotten hooked up to an IV, and I had fluids running, just basic fluids running. And while I was there, I was having some major contractions, and they were starting to get regular, and they were starting to like kind of be uncomfortable. And so the doctor looked at my contractions. She's like, you're going into labor right now. She's like, had I sent you home, you would have been right back here anyways later tonight, because your body's just naturally going into labor. And I was like, oh, thank God I came in anyways. So that avoided having to go home and coming back. And finally, around 9 o'clock at night on the 18th, finally got moved to our labor and delivery room. But because they were having such a hard time tracking Kennedy's heart rate, the nurse was just always in my room, kind of having to fidget with the monitor. And the plan was that they were gonna get me on Pitocin to get me to start dilating a little more. She was going to break my water. She was only gonna break one, and which was Kennedy, who was the lowest, baby A. As soon as I got in, the nurse was like, do you want your epidural now? And I was like, yes, give me the epidural, even though my contractions were still bearable. Like, they were uncomfortable, and they were starting to kind of like kick up a little bit, but it wasn't anything that it wasn't like I was in super bad pain. The guy comes in to do it, and I'm just like freaking, I'm trying not to freak out, and the nurse is being so good about like relaxing me, and the way she's talking to me was very relaxing. She had a very relaxing voice. She was super nice. And so she's standing in front of me and like kind of like rubbing my shoulders a little bit, because I would like kind of start to tense up and like freak out, and she's like, relax your shoulders. And so she kind of had her hands on my shoulders to relax me, and she was like kind of talking me through breathing. And so the breathing that I was doing, calm myself down, I think really helped me, just breathing through everything. The epidural was it went so smooth. It wasn't even nearly as bad as when I had Lennon's done. It reminded me of when I had Colt's done, where it was like this tiny little pinch, and before I knew it, it was over. And I started to go numb and not feel as many things, but I could still move my legs. What was crazy about this epidural, like I don't know why all of a sudden the third pregnancy my epidural just did everything correctly, but I could move my legs, like I could pick up my legs and kind of move my feet, but if you were like to touch me or pinch me, like I wouldn't feel it at all. And so they put in a catheter, they broke my water, and I didn't feel any of that, and it was great. And so my epidural wasn't too strong, and which is another thing I was worrying about. So we're just waiting, and my sisters had finally showed up a little later. They told me once I started to feel like the urge to push, to have them come and check me and around, and once I was 8 centimeters, they were gonna move me to the OR because I had to deliver in an OR. Rather have more time to like set up and just have me kind of sit there than me have to like frantically be rushed to the OR and them not have anything set up. I'm like sitting and talking to my mom and sister and and Cody, and my dad had left because it was starting to get later. It was probably a little bit after 11. I started kind of feeling uncomfortable like down there. Like I felt like a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't like a hurting pressure. It was just I felt pressure and it didn't hurt. But it was like I could barely feel it. I kind of like was like, okay, well maybe let me wait a little bit to kind of see if this is what I'm supposed to let them know about. I think I'm having urges to push, but I don't know, I can't really feel it. And so I was like, I'm just gonna call the nurse anyways. And so I called the nurse, and she had my mom and my sister leave the room really quick, and so she checked me, and I was like at a 7.5, 8 centimeters, like I was 7.5 to 8 centimeters dilated. And she's like, all right, let's go prep the OR room. We're gonna get everything prepped and ready, and then we're gonna take you over there. And so I think my mom and sister came back in. And originally the plan was to have, I was told that I could have 2 people in the operating room, and so I was gonna have Cody and my mom, but it turned out I could only have 1, so Cody came with me to the operating room. Finally, we get wheeled to the OR, and everybody's they're like setting the beds up, setting everything up, and everybody is doing good. I'm doing good. Like I feel great. Like I don't feel anything. My OB was finally like, okay, well let's do a practice push to see where you are. Because Kennedy's head was like, she could feel it, like she was ready to come out. And she's like, okay, let's do a practice push to see like where we're at. And so I did 1 practice push, and she's like, oh my God, stop. She's like, that baby's about to come out, and we need to call the baby nurses in, the ones that handle the babies after they're born, because they weren't in there yet. And so I was like, okay. And so we stopped, and they got the baby nurses in. Baby nurses came in, and within 3 pushes, Baby A was out. Kennedy was out at 12:09. They cleaned her, like I had her on me for a little bit, and then they had to take her and like clean her up so that I could get ready to deliver Knox. Started pushing a couple times, and he wasn't quite coming out because he was wanting to come out with his arm up, and so the doctor had to kind of go in and adjust him. And so she adjusted him, and then a couple pushes later, he came out exactly 10 minutes later. He came out at 12:19. They put him on me and said hi to him, and then they took him to his little bed. I was like, Cody, go take pictures of the baby. He was taking pictures of Kennedy like in her little warmer as the nurses were working with her. And then he went over to Knox, and I'm like not paying attention to any of that stuff because of course like I'm having to finish up some stuff too. So I'm not really paying attention to what's going on with Knox. But Cody wasn't able to get any pictures of him, and so he comes back and he's like, oh, I can't really get any pictures of him right now. And I was like, why? And they were like, they have a sleep app machine on him to help him breathe. Like he's not doing too good. Like I was really calm about it. I was really calm about it in the OR, and like after like everything kind of happened, I was very calm about it, but like internally I was freaking out because I like looked over at him and they had like the little machine on his nose and I could see his little chest and how hard he was struggling to breathe. And so I just like, I was just freaking out, but I like kept calm on the outside. He was having a hard time, like he was breathing, but he was having a hard time breathing on his own. Like he needed a little bit of extra help. And so that's why they had the sleep apnea machine on him. He said that he was gonna have to go to the NICU. Cody stayed with him and followed him up to the NICU. And Kennedy, they gave me Kennedy and they sent me back to my labor and delivery room. And then my sister and my mom came back in after a little while and they saw her. Eventually Cody came back and he said as soon as they got him up there to the NICU, he started breathing fine. And so his breathing was great. They were gonna monitor him. After a couple hours, he would probably be able to come back to us. And so I was like, okay. And so my mom and my sister left and then eventually they moved us to our post-delivery room. Which was the room that we would stay in for the rest of our time there. On the way there, I was able to go up to the NICU, and so I just did a drive-by really quick just to see him because I hadn't seen him really other than like that couple seconds that they like brought him up to me and before they took him to his little warmer. I saw him and like I like couldn't even really like, I like looked at him and then I was like, okay, we can go, because I was still just like in such a daze and like I just couldn't see him like that. It was really hard for me to see him in see him in the NICU, and he wasn't even the one that we were worried about like the entire time during like labor and delivery. It was Kennedy who I had come in with concerns, and so she was the one being monitored the entire time. So when she came out just fine, I figured like Knox would come out fine, just like no problem, but I guess things just happened. We finally got back to our room and I fed her, and then they had me go up and feed him because he still hadn't been fed yet. And so I went up to do a feeding. I was like, he's gonna be fine. They told me he was gonna be fine. He's doing great. They just needed to keep him for a little while just to monitor him. And as soon as the pediatrician said it was okay, he could come back down to me. And so I fed him and then I went back down, and within an hour he was back down with me and Kennedy and Cody, and everything was okay. Once that happened, everything went smoothly. They passed all of their tests in the hospital. They didn't have jaundice. They were both breastfeeding like champs. We had to stay for an extra day than normal because they were technically considered preemie by just like a few days. So when I had them on the 19th, I was technically 36 weeks and 5 days, and they're considered preemies if they're born before 37 weeks. If I would have had them 2 days later, they would have been fine. They wouldn't have been considered preemies, and they wouldn't have to have gone through some extra testing that we went through. And we were finally able to go home on Friday, and now we have twins, and everything has been going smoothly. They love the babies. Colt loves to help out with the babies. He loves to give them their pacifiers. He likes to like grab their diapers for me or grab stuff for them while I'm changing them. And while I'm changing the babies, Colt and Lennon just like hover like right above them as I'm changing because they just love the little babies. And Lennon, whenever I pick one up to like feed, Lennon grabs their blanket and brings it over and gives it to me so that I can put the blanket over them. Lennon's so cute, and she'll bring their pacifiers over too, so she likes to help out. But everybody's doing good. I'm doing great. Cody's doing great. That is everything for my labor and delivery story. Now I'm going to have you meet them. Okay, so I think I'm gonna get Knox first because he's awake. So this is Knox. His full name is Knox Bradley Walton. Oh, he was born at a chunky little 6 pounds, 7 ounces. Oh. And we named him Knox because Cody has loved that name for a son, and he originally wanted to name Colt Knox. but I told him I liked that name better for like a second son, not the first one for some reason. So I promised him if we had another boy that he would be named Knox. And then we named, his middle name is after Cody's dad. He's a very red baby. Don't be alarmed, he's like always this, he's always this red. Can you say hi? Can you say hi? Okay. Ooh. There. And here is baby, well technically she was baby A. So Knox was baby B and Kennedy was baby A. And this is Kennedy Jasmine Walton. She was born at 5 pounds 5 ounces. Kennedy was born at 12:09 and Knox was born at 12:19. Technically she's the big sister even though she is smaller. Oh, your glove fell off. No. I was having the hardest time finding a name for Kennedy because I wanted the twins to both have similar names, but because Knox is such a hard name to find a name to go with Knox that's a girl name, we were like, do we do one that like rhymes? And we like couldn't find one that rhymed, and then we were like, well, what do we do? And so it was taking me forever to find a baby girl name. And so finally I was like, okay, well, I at least want them to both have a name that starts with a K, so that they can still be the same, but they'll still be different. And so I had kind of put everybody on like find a baby name alert. And my mom was working, she's a nurse, and so whenever patients would come in, she would just like look through the names really quick to see if there was a name that I would like. And she saw the name Kennedy and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that name. That name is so cute. And so Cody didn't like it as much, but we couldn't find one that was better. It was more special to me because my mom picked it out. I kind of had that attachment to it because my mom picked it. And then the middle name Jasmine is after my sister. So she has my sister's name as a middle name. And it isn't spelled, my sister's name isn't spelled like Jasmine how it's normally spelled, which is Jasmine. Her name is actually spelled Jasmyn, and so that's how Kennedy's middle name is spelled too. So here she is again. Oh, she's stretching all funny. Say hi. This way, this way, this way. Why is your head going the opposite way? And Kennedy and Knox look nothing alike. Not at all. They look like completely different babies. And Kennedy looks exactly like Lennon when she was born, and then Knox looks exactly like Colt when he was born. So my boys look more alike, and then my girls look more alike, but the twins don't look anything alike, which is so crazy. That is everything for this video. Everybody's doing well. Everybody's adjusting well. She's getting sleepy. So now that I've disturbed the babies, I'm gonna get going so that I can change them and feed them. Thank you all so much for following me through this journey and for sending me thoughts and prayers during the whole thing and well wishes. We have so much support from our friends and family, and we're very thankful for everything. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks guys, bye.